Hello and good afternoon, everybody. When I first saw this picture, I was astonished by the beauty of the colors and details. As you can see, it's very attention to details. This kind of painting is called realism, which is what I am going to talk about today. I am going to talk about the history of realism and the the history of the realism and some of the famous artists and their notable works, and lastly the distinction of realism, what makes it different from other art movements. So, as I said, the history, artists and some of their famous works, and what makes realism distinct. So, to begin with, the history, I'm going to talk about the place of origin, and secondly, I'm going to talk about the leader of the movement, and lastly, the purpose of this art movement. So, let us start, shall we? Okay. First, the history. The place of origin, it began in France, according to metmuseum.org. It began at the 1840s and flourished or became important or popular by the vast majority of people in 1848 in France after the French Revolution. And secondly, the leader of the movement is called Gustave Courbet, who was a famous painter and sculptor. He was born in 1819 and died in 1877. He was the leader of the realism art movement, and he's a painter and sculptor. And the purpose of this art movement is to show or demonstrate or focus on the lives of regular people, or especially the lives of laborers, farmers, and agricultural workers, working class. That's the purpose of it. Yeah, especially working class. So now that we have talked about the history and the leader of the movement and the purpose of realism, which is to show or demonstrate the lives of regular people and especially the working class, unlike other art movements which like focus on painting lavish things or kings and queens. The purpose of it is to show and depict the lives of regular people, working class. So let us move on to our second main point, which is some of the artists and their famous works. I'm going to talk about Gustave Courbet, which is the leader of the movement. Second, Jean-Francois Millet was a famous artist, French artist, and Rosa Bonheur. Okay. To begin with, we have, as you can see here, Gustave Courbet, who was born in 1819 and died in 1877, a painter and a sculptor. And this is one of his famous paintings called A Burial at Ornans. As you can see here, it was exhibited to the public at 1849, about 1849 or 1850. And Ornans is a small territory in eastern France, which is his hometown, Gustave. Second, we have Jean-Francois Millet, who is also a painter, who was born in 1814 and died in 1875. and he was one of the founders of a school called Barbizon School, which is a French landscape art movement, another art movement. Okay, and here's one of his paintings. As you can see here, realism is attention to details. Like it's kind of like a photo from a digital camera. As you can see here, there are 3 farmers or agricultural workers who presumably picking up hay, I believe, some hay. It was exhibited in 1857, and it's called the Gleaners. Okay, and lastly, our last famous realist artist, Rosa Bonheur, born in 1822 and died in 1899. She's a realist artist. And this one, as you can see, I showed you at the beginning of the presentation, which I found very beautiful because it is so attention to details, and the colors are beautiful. And all of the pictures that you have seen, the artist used oil painting for these paintings. It was first shown in 1853. So now that we have talked about some of the famous and important artists of this movement, the Realism art movement, now let us move on to let us know how it is different from other art movements. What is the distinction of this art movement? I'm going to talk about the theme of the art movement and materials that are used in this art movement. Okay, as you can see here, here is another painting of Gustave Courbet, who was the leader of this movement, and the other painting which you have seen. As you can see, it's really like a picture from a digital phone or a camera. And as I have said, the theme is of this art movement, the realism art movement, is to demonstrate and depict the lives of working class people. And the materials that are mostly used and is used with all of the paintings that you have seen is oil painting. So to conclude, I have talked about the history of realism and the leader of this movement and some of the famous artists and what makes realism different from other art movements. So, and here are my sources if you want to further look into it, look into this art. And thank you. Are there any questions?